Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. Holla at your boy. I am here with some fantastic authors and educators and ed tech evangelists, and we will be talking about personalized learning. So, if you've been checking out the event and Twitter, do you know who my guests are today? I have Kathleen McCl and Barbara Bray. And so we're going to be talking about personalized learning. So, Kathleen, would you introduce yourselves to the audience tonight?
Yes, hi, I'm Kathleen McCl. I'm co-founder of Personalized Learning with Barbara Bray, who you'll meet in a minute. And I've been in the ed tech field for over 30 years. I am definitely an ed tech evangelist. I truly believe that tools can really level the playing field for all learners. And I'm so excited about doing this podcast with all of you and really talking about personalized learning and how we really can actually level the playing field and have every learner really realize their hopes and dreams.
Barbara.
My turn. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Will. What an honor to be invited on your show. I feel it's really nice because we're very excited about personalized learning, like Kathleen said. A little bit about us. We met about 5 years ago, but we've both been very passionate about making learning personal for almost 20 to 30 years, so we're telling our age a little bit. But what I love is that what we've been doing is pulling together the ideas and making it so we can do what we really believe in, which is to focus on the learner first. And so I've been doing this for some time. We both of us wrote as authors of Make Learning Personal. We did a book, and we've been working with each other as co-founders. Oh, there's our book. Yay, he even has a copy. And so the other is we have lots of things we can tell you, which we'll tell you while we're answering some of the questions from the interview. But a lot of it is that every day we feel like we have to do this. It's time for the change to transform teaching and learning. It's that time now. So thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Well, thank you for coming on. And those weren't words. You make it seem like I'm Charlie Rose or somebody. All right. So, again, here's the book, y'all, so you can see it. All right. Go buy it, read it, change your classroom and your practice. So let's just jump in, okay? I know the folks they're watching. They want to get to the meat and potatoes. So let's begin with defining personalized learning. Barbara?
Okay. I'm going to start out right away with, if you have our book, one of the things that which we both mentioned is we went into this because it's really about the learner. And there's a lot of confusion about personalized learning and what it means. And so what we wanted to do is make it so it was very, very clear. So the first thing we did is we came up with a definition based on what it means for a learner to own and drive their learning. So I'm going to go to page 34, and I'm just going to read to you what we wrote about personalized learning means. Learners know how they learn best. They are co-designers of the curriculum and the learning environment. They have flexible learning anytime and anywhere. They have a voice and choice in their learning. They have quality teachers who are partners in the learning, and they use a competency-based model to demonstrate mastery. They self-direct their learning and design their learning path for college, career, and life. Now, with that, it sounds easy, but we know it isn't. It takes a lot of support and resources and a commitment. And I'm going to let, I don't know if you want to go on to the next question, because we're going to go in a lot more detail about all of this and define that word personalization and personalized learning in more detail.
Okay, so I put up the book. Barbara's with the book. Let me put it up again. Now, the questions that we will be talking about today are coming directly from this book. So, in your book, you wrote about the difference between personalized learning, differentiated instruction, and individualization. And why was it so important for you to make that distinction? And is just differentiating and individualizing learning for students, well, for learners, is that not good enough? Kathleen.
Well, I'm thrilled to answer this particular question. First of all, we created what's called the PDI chart, the personalization versus differentiation versus individualization chart, actually over 3 years ago. We revised it actually 3 times. Where can you find it? You can find it in 2 places. You can find it on the inside cover of our book, right here. Or you can actually go off to our website and go to the Toolkit tab, and you can actually download that particular chart. So why did we actually create that chart? Well, back in 2010, the National Technology Plan came out, and they used these 3 terms from the perspective of instruction. And what was really missing in their language was the learner. And we really realized that we really needed to help define these terms as they related to the learner. Now, what is the difference between those 3? Well, personalization is learner-centered. Individualization and differentiation are teacher-centered. Okay, and personalization really needed to be defined about what that actually means. And one of the very big pieces here around personalization is that learners have voice and choice. In that differentiation and individualization, there's not necessarily a lot of voice and choice for learners. Teachers are doing much of the directing, really putting lessons together, basically really dictating what happens in instruction. And the learner usually has to just be the recipient of that. Where personalization, the learner is far more active in their learning. So I hope I answered that question. And there's a lot more. In fact, we go into quite a bit of detail actually in the book, where we really do have a set of questions we're answering around that chart, and we really elaborate on those terms and that particular chart as they were related to those 3 terms. So. But.
Okay. So you talk about that, and you bring up the differences. K through 12 is a massive entity, an undertaking. And when you think about personalized learning, in terms of especially when you say personalization is learner driven, how then can personalized learning be scaled to where it's not just maybe Miss Lewis's classroom or Mr. Edwards' classroom? It's this elementary school, it's this middle school, it's this school district. So how do you scale personalized learning? Barbara?
Well, that's a big one. It's a culture shift. It's more than just, even though you're going to have lots of resources that you could say will personalize learning, and that could be a way to personalize, to get everyone on board. But when you want to scale, it's really about a culture shift. You're changing a whole system, especially when you're looking at changing teacher and learner roles. And what we look at, it's really changing the human infrastructure. Because if you ask teachers who only know what they know or what they were taught to turn around and turn the learning over to the kids, it is a lot easier to give them a device. And the devices do help them. But a lot of times, when you give a device to a learner, the teacher still only knows that certain way of teaching, so they still might be doing teacher-directed instruction and not change the way they teach to actually turn over and give voice and choice to that child or that learner. So what happens is you need to actually look at how you're going to get a common language around what the terms are, which we were talking about, is What does it mean? What does it mean for you, your school, your district, the school community, and all the stakeholders? And Kathleen's going to go in a little more detail about that in a little bit, but the other thing you need is you need a support system, which means you need coaches, and you'll need teachers on board, and you need to figure out how they're going to get ongoing support with the resources they need, flexible time, collaborative planning, and it takes a strategic plan that just isn't written for 1 year. It's something that it's ongoing, and it's a commitment that everyone believes. It's not just a fad. It's not just an initiative. And I know I might be saying some things Kathleen's going to say and some other ones, or we might both say again, but we really believe that this is as a culture shift, and that it's a transformation, not a reforming school. It means that you have to understand what that means for you as a teacher and as a learner, as a parent, and as as an administrator. What is your role? And it's going to change. And when that happens, and we've seen it in schools and districts, when that happens, they never want to go back. They want it to work. So we do have some models where it's changed across the whole district, a whole school. And we plan to show you a little bit of those, or tell you about those today.
Okay, so when you talk about changing of the culture and support for teachers and coaches, then what does that mean for the changing role of teachers when you now start to implement personalized learning? Kathleen?
Well, actually, let me just say to you is that we have a chapter in our book that really addresses how teacher and learner roles change. And here's that chapter. It says, wow, teacher and learner roles change. And we want to talk about that for a minute, because one of the things that will happen with the teacher now is that the teacher really needs to understand how their learner learns using a personal learner profile. And we happen to use the Universal Design for Learning framework around personalized learning. So we help teachers understand how learners need to access information, how they need to engage with information, and also how to express what they know and understand. So they know their learners now in a very different lens than they ever have before. Okay, and they're also making their instructional decisions around who their learners are. Okay, and so that, in fact, that they're looking at actually for diverse learners, okay, to really understand how to better instruct and really select the best methods for the learners in their classroom. They are also working on redesigning their learning environment, and because now you have all these different learners, and you have to really have ways for learners to learn in different areas of the classroom. Some teachers have called those learning zones, and there have been all sorts of different names. We call them learning spaces. It's the redesign of the learning space. And actually the lessons are actually now being designed, by the way, with more learner voice and choice. And I'm just actually really looking at what's called stage 1 of personalized learning environments. So where do you find that? I had put up the PDI chart previously, but the stages of personalized learning can be found on the inside the back cover of our book. It is also downloadable off our website on the Toolkit tab. So here's those stages. There's actually 3 stages, and what I was just talking about was the very first stage and how the roles change. In our book, we actually go through all 3 of those stages and really go into some detail about how those do change. So I hope I answered those questions about how the roles change, and I know the next question is Barbara. So
yes, so let's stick with this with changing roles. So now let's talk about the student. Learner, as you like to say. What is the learner's role in personalized learning, and how does that change, or how does that play out when we're talking about learners connecting and collaborating with other learners?
You want me to take that?
Yes, Barbara.
Okay. Well, first, we should confirm that the reason why we talk about the word learner, not student, is because student implies that compliancy, following rules, the way that the traditional system was set up is I'm a student, I show up, and I do what the teacher tells me to do. I follow directions so I can get a grade and get to the next grade. And a learner is one with a growth mindset because they want to learn. It's not for extrinsic motivation because of a grade or because they want to get out of school or something like that. It's mainly because they really want to learn something. And so one of the things that we want to do is get back to that base of when you were born with a growth mindset, wanting to learn. And we want that back in school. We want that school to be, instead of doing school, we want them to go to school because they want to learn. They're motivated and engaged to learn. So that role, when that happens, they are taking more responsibility for what, the design of the lesson. Maybe it's based on their interest. They've developed, like Kathleen mentioned, a profile, but they also have a plan that they can sit with their teacher and co-design their plan and help them go down their path based on their interests, their talents, their aspirations, and figure out what they want to do for a college career and life, not just academic. It's what they want, because we want global citizens that can make really good choices for themselves. And a lot of times they don't even know what choices they want. They do what someone else tells them to do, and then they're really unhappy later. So one of the things we do, and we've asked in our course, is have you ever asked your kids what they want? How do they learn? What do they like? What are their interests? A lot of times we assume we know what they need. And so we want them to take more responsibility for their, what they are going to learn. We want them to be accountable for what they learn, not the teacher. Because right now the teacher's accountable for what they learn, and also it seems to be, kind of a punishment if they don't do well. And the teachers and the schools and the administrators are the ones that suffer, and the kids fall through the cracks. And we don't want to do that anymore. We think it's time now to transform the system, and our kids are really smart. We have to give them that opportunity.
Okay, so when we look at the changing roles for both teacher and learner, what does the classroom environment start to look like? Describe what types of learning activities or lessons can be found within a personalized learning environment. Kathleen.
Well, I'm going to talk about the personalized learning environment, sort of how you end up redesigning that classroom. And I'm going to give you an example of teachers that we've met who have done that now. They're in their 4th year of really creating those environments. And one of the things that's really evident, it doesn't look like a classroom anymore. In fact, I'm going to reference both Lisa and Wanda from Kettle Moraine. They are K-1 co-teachers in Kettle Moraine, Wisconsin. And what they did is they took all the desks out. They have these leather sofas in different parts of the room. They have a kitchen table in which kids can work on. They have bean bags where kids can actually go and sit, relax, and read. They may have another area in the room where it has very light, some lighting, and a place where kids can go to a quiet place to read. And of course, there are some kids that would rather work on the floor than on a table, and that certainly is an option too. So their learning environment now has really changed dramatically, and it's a very active environment. It's very different than watching kids sitting in a chair at a desk and doing their work. Okay, they definitely have tables, but think about the kitchen table. What a gathering and collaborative place that could be. So anyway, it's a different world that room. And the kids actually, what's wonderful about this particular environment is the kids now talk about their learning to each other and to other people like never before. Most schools that you go in, you really probably never had a conversation with a learner and how they like to learn, or maybe just talking about their learning and making connections to learning. So they have they have an environment now where they actually do talk about their learning. So I'm going to let Barbara talk and provide some really good examples, other examples around this.
Okay, I'm going to just jump in and just show you the cover of a book. We have some kids right there on the floor, and we're using iPads, but that's kind of what we're seeing in classes like this, is that they're sitting anywhere. They're standing, they're pacing, there's a whole bunch of things that they're finding. And what also, when you go in a class where the teacher has let go and the kids are working, and you might have small groups, large groups, and maybe someone in individual work, it sounds like a coffee shop. It doesn't sound like one person going rah, 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 how they and that's cool. It's like a hum. And that's what you're looking at, is you're looking at these kids excited. You'll also see if you still have a bell system, because a lot of times they get rid of the bells because you're now responsible to get to the place you need. You might even not have one room. You might have two rooms with one large room with two teachers or three teachers in it. So that might be another thing. You might have, like Sarah Downing Ford in Maine, she's a 7th grade teacher who she sits down with the kids and they unpack the standards together and they come up with ICANN statements. They do it. They design the assessment. She's just going around and working with them as a resource. Or you may have Kevin McLaughlin, who is a primary teacher in the UK, and what he did is he found that his kids just could not, they were just not doing it when he was just up there in the front of the room. So he made learning zones. He has 5 learning zones. He has a discovery zone, a creativity zone, a show-off zone, and some others. And what he also did is he had his kids create personal learning plans. He calls them personal journeys, or PJs. So everybody's doing it different. That's the thing about personalized learning. You might say, well, just give me a template for it and just let me look at it and I'll do it the same way. Well, it'll be different for everybody because every class is different, every teacher is different, every community is different. So I hope that helps with Kathleen and I giving you some examples. We have a lot more and we'll probably share you some more.
Excellent, excellent. So the two of you are educators. You are speakers. You present at conferences. You are authors. You travel around to many schools. So where your book, your personal experiences, where are you finding great examples of personalized learning? And what can teachers and administrators who read your book gain from those examples? Kathleen.
Well, the thing is, okay, so we keep referring to the book, but in chapter 4 we actually is a chapter called is Where is Personalized Learning Happening? And so we've given quite a few different models there. We've included transformative models, and I'll speak to one of those because I actually have one of those models in my backyard in my hometown at Sauhegan High School. It's a coalition of essential schools that's been around for over 20 years. And that particular school really is very learner-centered. There are kids that are highly motivated and engaged in their learning. They have an advisory program. And 85 to 90% of the kids go off to 4-year colleges out of that high school. A real success story for sure. And so there are other, in our travels, I had an opportunity to actually go to the High School Redesign Conference last year, and at a conference, and I met up with a group from what's called RSU2 in Hallowell, Maine. Well, Maine is a totally different story and a different model. This is a district model. It's a K-12 performance-based system. They have performances aligned to all the standards, including science. And kids basically have to reach a certain level of mastery in their performance. And so that is an excellent model. Just a little note about Maine. Maine actually, in 2018, will start giving out performance-based diplomas and no longer the diplomas that we actually had ourselves. So it's going to be based entirely on performance. And a third example I sort of want to give you is the Mount Abe middle high school up in Bristol, Vermont. And they actually, at their high school, they actually have what's called the Pathways program, where kids design their own pathways to graduation. And they really, really sort of dig deep, and those kids in that group really, really follow their passions. They get experiences and internships and mentorships. They're meeting all sorts of competencies as they're doing that. Okay, they're held accountable for all their competencies, and they do get credits for that. But these kids absolutely are just a totally different group of kids that really are passionate about something, and they have the opportunity to try that out on their own, either with a mentor or an internship. But it's a real wild place, and I've met some wonderful kids there that are now following their dreams, and they have a supportive staff with personalized learning coaches at that particular school. It's a great, great model, so I've got to visit that school as well. I'm so excited to share all of those. But Barbara's got a lot more to share, for sure.
Okay. We have so many that it's really difficult to just pick a few. So I thought I'd just cover some transformative models that are very big. And one is Reggio Emilia. It's started as a child care program in Italy after World War II. And it's interesting how it's now been adapted and adopted across the world, and is moving to pre-K-12. And the way it works is you have the environment is completely redesigned to be around the learner, and they can walk around at whatever age, and they choose what they want, and the teacher and the parent are observers and document the process. So they call the environment the third educator. Now, this may not work for everyone in all grades, but what we have in our book is what we did is we took each one of the ones that Kathleen talked about and the ones I'm going to continue, give you some more, and we put in the characteristics about each one of these models and maybe how you could pull one of the characteristics and adapt or adopt any of those for your system. Because it may not work, but something might work. Like, how did they document? What types of things did they do? When they observed, they actually have observation forms that maybe you could use. We also looked at different districts, and there's one called Adams County Public District 50 in Colorado, and they're completely into this performance-based and personalized, and they have a lot of resources online, but I got to write what they said on their website was, learning is personalized, learning is the constant, time is the variable. And because time is the variable, you know, that's similar to what we were talking about performance-based. We have a lot of examples of competency-based models and performance-based models and how they did it, and also contact information, how you could reach the people and go visit. But we also, I did want to mention, we have on our website, we have a lot of journeys, and we also are trying to collect all these models and put them up there. We have Verona Area School District is one where we did coaching there with them, and now they've taken it on their own, and they're doing the coaching to build a self-sustainable model. And that's another one that people want to do. When we talked about how are you going to scale, you might want to talk to the people at Verona to see how they do it. And we also have schools on our site and classrooms. So we want to give different models because it's going to look different for everyone. We could probably talk all day long about this because there's so many. So maybe they need to get our book so they can read it. Just a little plug.
I hear you. So leaping ahead 2, 3, 5 years, where do you see personalized learning within our K through 12 system, Barbara?
Well, we just wrote the 10 trends to personalized learning because we realized that it's starting to happen a lot. We're getting so many calls from people and wanting to share what they're doing. So I think it's going to start spreading more and more because they realize we can't keep doing the same old thing. It's not working. So what we see is we're going to see a lot more examples. We're going to see people saying, okay, we need that, we need a belief system now. We need a shared belief system. So how are we going to do it? And that's one of the things we're going to be telling you about is some of the advice. I want Kathleen to talk about that, but let me just go one more thing. We created our course out of a need. We worked with a group that said, we need to know what it is and how to do it and what do you need to do, and they helped work with us on the beginning of this, and it's ended up with the course, a book, and some more things that we're doing basically to get the common language so they can get started. And we think it's almost there now in a lot of places. And so we're getting a lot of people writing us all the time saying, can we put a post up on your site? Can we tell about it? Can we go to conferences with you? So we have a feeling it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I don't know if that's, I know we're excited anyway.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We are excited. So before we leave, people hopefully are watching this show. We'll watch it in the future, and they themselves will get excited, and they'll get on fire, and they'll go, okay, what you said is great. It's good. I'm feeling it, but how do I take it from the page into my classroom? What is your advice for teachers and administrators who are interested in implementing personalized learning within their school?
Well, that's a really good question, Will. Let's say this, okay, that personalized learning, by the way, it's not a fad, okay, and it's not a new initiative. It truly is the change of culture, and in fact, Barbara referred to that early on in this podcast. And let me just say that it's a way to really transform teaching and learning. And it doesn't really happen overnight. It truly is a process. You really have to get a vision, a belief system, and a commitment from all the stakeholders for this really to work, okay? And the other thing is that you have to build a common language and understanding of personalized learning, because what is really true, you cannot change the culture until you change the language. You want to be able to walk outside your door and have a conversation with your colleague or your peer or your principal. You all have to be talking the same language. And that's probably one of the key things. Now, how do you go and about change that in the classroom? We have an excellent chapter, by the way, in chapter 6 of this particular book that really gives some really good advice for both teachers and educational leaders on how to start, okay? A lot of people, by the way, actually, outside of the 5 Ws, the 5 Ws of personalized learning is an e-course that we give that lots and lots of people take because it truly builds the common language and understanding. And that's a little pitch for that course, but it is so excellent that people love and always share that out. Entire school districts often want everyone in their school district to take that particular course. We actually help people out to really get this going, and we do provide services outside of that course. But the thing is, I think it'd be really excellent if people read the book and had conversations about it, and then talk to us some more. But anyway, I really, really want to thank you for letting us on today, and I'm going to let Barbara have some closing words too, because I'm sure she has some final thoughts about this podcast today.
Oh, if it's okay, I was just going to add, Kathleen mentioned that it's not a fad or an initiative, and one of the things that we do is we work with districts and help them connect the dots of what initiatives and programs that they have under the personalized learning umbrella. If they can see it's not a new fad and that it's actually changing the system, and then we spend a day working with them and give them strategies on how to do that. It's been a really valuable exercise. We've had a lot of teachers go, I never thought of that. You know, they always think it's, you know, oh, it's one more thing, it's going to go away, going to get a new leader, and then it'll go away, you know, that kind of thing. But if it's part of the culture, and it's something that everybody wants to do, and it's what they're all working for, and they put all the resources toward it, and they provide support, and the kids get involved, and they realize, you know, the kids are a great resource. and you know, since we're ed technologists, that's one more thing, since we use technology, a lot of times we try to stay ahead of the kids on this stuff, and I don't know about you, but I can't. What I'd like to do is see in an environment where the kids are teaching us and teaching each other. Because you'll see how that value right there, I learn a lot when I teach. And I think that if we can have this happen, it'll be great. One more thing I'm going to put a plug in is for P-Learn Chat. It's our Twitter. And I was just checking real quick, Kathleen. People are watching us, and they're tweeting out right now, Dr. Will, about what we're saying. So I just want to let you know that. So we put on every Monday, it's around 7 in the evening on Eastern Standard Time.
Every other Monday.
Every other Monday. And this coming one, we're doing multi-age classrooms with co-teaching teams, because we know this is new. And this is hard for teachers, and so a lot of administrators said, well, how do you do this? So we put together this chat, and we're inviting people to come and share either you know, what they're doing, or also questions and concerns, because the only way you're going to do this is have the conversations and bring the right people together, and then you can work it out.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I thank you, the both of you, for being on the Dr. Will Show. I've had a blast. It's been great. Again, people, go out and buy the book, read it, embrace it, and start to bring the conversations and practice within your school district. So again, I thank everyone for watching, and we're going to keep it going with this personal learning journey that I'm going with, trying to share with you. We will be doing a show with Catherine Prince. Yes. So she'll be coming up. Catherine Prince of Knowledge Works. And I hope everyone watches the show. Again, thank you, everyone, for viewing. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Will. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.